You are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Darryl Jr. welcoming you to take another lap of the extra mile for tonight, September 26, 2019. And ladies and gentlemen, there is a new champion of the NTT Data IndyCar Series, and his name is, for the second time in 3 years, Joseph Newgarden. Also, Ferrari finally seems to have their mojo back in Formula One, but it is a case of too little, too late. We'll get to that on the other side. And who thought that the NASCAR silly season was going to be boring? That has finally picked up steam, and also one driver may have yeed his last paw after spinning out one too many Toyotas. We'll get to that as well this evening, but before then, I have to welcome my co-host for this evening, Caitlin Seam. Caitlin, welcome.
Yeed his last paw. I like that.
I came up with that one on the... Well, I didn't really come up with that one on the fly, but I just thought it would be nice there.
It was fitting. I enjoyed it.
Yes.
That was a good one.
So I was actually at Richmond Raceway when that whole thing went down, and that was actually a really fun weekend, and I don't want to go into it too much. I just want to say that got to go with a good friend of mine, Derek Moore. I hadn't seen him in 3 years. As you know, when I went to Daytona, kind of got rained on, so everything kind of worked out to where we could go back, or we could run it back kind of with that trip and go down to Richmond for the weekend and see the race. And we had a lot of fun. Got to see him and hang with him for a weekend. And shout out to Derek and Scott. Had a lot of fun. We definitely got to try and do that again with less rain and less heat, because it was sweltering before the sun went down. Like, once the sun went down, it was good. But good night was it hot that afternoon.
I mean, I feel you. I understand how that goes. It's so hot down south still. As I was telling you before the show, it was 92 today.
Ew. I'm
just over it. Like, Monday was the first day of autumn, and I am ready for a high of 70. High of 92 is not my friend.
I think the weather here today, since we're talking about temperature before we get started, I'm actually curious. It's actually 76 right now. It was in the 80s at some point, but we've lost the humidity up here now that it's turned autumn. So the temperature may have said 82, but it actually felt pretty pleasant. So I don't think that's going to stay away, though, because tomorrow it's going to be 80, 52% humidity, and then 70% humidity on Saturday, and a high of 88. So, yeah.
I kind of hate you. Yeah. Again, it's currently 84 here, but for the race this weekend, it's a high of 92. Oh, apparently we're talking about a chance of rain.
Rain tires at the Roval. Rain tires at the Roval. Rain tires at the
Caitlin
Roval.
Won't be there.
Please.
It rains. Bye.
Please let it rain at the Roval. Especially since we're going to call that race on USRN on Sunday. Please let it rain. Oh, that would be terrific. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let's get into this IndyCar race. We have a new champion, and that is Mr. Joseph Newgarden, which, Caitlin, he did not have that great of a day. He started 4th, finished 8th, but it was all he needed to do to actually win the championship, because everyone in front of him basically had to win. The driver that finished highest of the championship contenders was Scott Dixon, but he was eliminated when Ed Jones and Santino Ferrucci made contact, and they went out of the race. Thank goodness, because if there is one thing I think everybody on this show is going to criticize the NBC team as far as IndyCar goes. The IndyCar broadcast team is what I was looking for there. Is their treatment of the Santino Ferrucci situation and how they tried to change the narrative of it. That is dead, thank goodness, as Ferrucci ended up finishing last. Ed Jones finished 23rd, finishing off a so-so season for him. But Colton Herta, Caitlin, he picked up what some would call what everyone would pretty much call a fluke win at the new race in Coda, and then he ends up dominating here in Laguna Seca, proving his doubters wrong. Not bad for somebody who, quote unquote, bought the ride, as someone tried to say.
Well, I'm starting to feel like maybe he just really wants us to keep adding new racetracks to the schedule because he has a talent for these kind of situations. So huge props to him. What a way to end his rookie season by ending it on a W. I mean, there's really no other way to swing into the off season with momentum than ending with a W. For a rookie, especially something like that situation, that's as good as a championship right there.
Yep, he had 2 wins, one at Coda, and inaugural race for the IndyCar Series. And he wins at Laguna Seca. Not a inaugural race for IndyCar, but the first race in quite a while for open wheel. For American open wheel, rather. They did run an A1GP race there. Rest in peace, A1GP. But Colton ends up picking up the win for Steinbrenner Racing, and that team's actually going to be joined with the Harding team, and both of those teams going to join with Andretti Autosport next season. So Colton Herta will be driving a 5th Andretti car for let me see if I can get this right. Harding Steinbrenner Andretti Racing, I think is what the new team name is going to be. I'm just going to keep calling it Andretti Racing because that is alphabet soup. Please figure out a way to shorten your names when you join teams, please.
Or, create a new name.
That'll do it. I'd take that.
Right? Just make a new one.
Yeah.
Even if it's some sort of anagram, just make a new name. It's like somebody getting married who was already hyphenated and then hyphenating their name again.
Yeah.
We don't need it.
Yeah. It's bad enough that we have to deal with a situation next year where NASCAR is going from Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series just to NASCAR Cup Series. And they're going to try to have 4 or 5 different sponsors for everything. So trying to remember that's going to be a headache in and of itself. So if y'all could cut us some slack, that'd be great. But the back to the IndyCar race. Colton leads 83 of 90 laps. I know it's hard to pass at Laguna Seca, but he just spanked the field all weekend. That car was hooked up. And the race was interesting from a strategy standpoint more than an on-track people trying to make passes point. But it was intense trying to see whether or not these strategy calls would work out for these teams, especially because Newgarden, like we said at the beginning all day, he was really just running in the back, not doing a whole lot, and somehow he ends up doing just enough to win the championship.
I want to know, and I didn't get to listen to any of the interviews, so unless you can fill me in, but was it just that they couldn't figure it out for the day, or were they taking it easy? I feel like he was playing with fire just a little bit.
From what I could tell, that car was having a issue. They were having a handling issue. I think it was understeer that they were struggling with, and about the midway point in the race, they just went into championship winning mode where you just got to do enough to survive, because Pagenaud couldn't get up there and get the win. Rossi couldn't get up there and get the win. Yes, Scott Dixon was third, but that was the best thing for Newgarden, because Dixon has to win the race, and for Dixon to win the championship, Newgarden basically has to not finish the race. So they can let Scott Dixon get up there and do whatever they wanted. They just needed to finish the race at that point. It was okay, let's just take it easy and get this thing home. I think is what they decided to do.
Well, they're certainly lucky that a couple other competitors didn't have a better race.
Well, they're also lucky this wasn't, as much as IndyCar fans are going to hate me say this, they're lucky they didn't have a winner-take-all finale. Because that would have been Newgarden done and dusted, and maybe that's why they don't do it because he still got rewarded for an entire season where he did extremely well in a bounce back. He ended up winning 4 races, which was a series best, took 2 poles on the year en route to 641 points and his second championship. So he'll have the number 1 next season. But Caitlin, as we've seen, that number 1 has been a kiss of death for drivers trying to defend it.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw it happen to Newgarden last year when he didn't have it, and I can't say that I'm not automatically a little nervous for him for next year anyway.
And we saw Pagenaud as well. Pagenaud, when he had it, he did nothing that season, and we thought that he was going to be out of the ride. Then he wins the Indy 500, basically dominates the month of May, and pretty much guarantees himself that seat for life. So it seems like once drivers get away from that number 1 in IndyCar, they manage to have a rebound, but it is really hard for them to defend that title. And I think that's kind of the way you want it to be, so that each season is not predictable. But it's going to be a lot of fun because we're going to have an angry Alexander Rossi next season. Simon Pagenaud seemingly back to what he used to be. Scott Dixon wanting revenge because he had a couple of mechanical issues take him out of this championship. He still wants to win number 6. You know, going into the season, Colton Herta as well. You know, what is he going to do? Now he's going to have the big team branding. There's going to be high expectations on him. So there's a possibility you could have 5 or 6, you could have 6 drivers next year, Caitlin, battling for the title.
But isn't that what we want?
That is definitely what we want.
Like, that's, I feel like, is what's so exciting about this is, and I think it's proof of the continued momentum for IndyCar as a sport, as a whole, that you're looking at it this way. Like, your package isn't narrowing the amount of drivers that automatically have this ability to take the championship next year. And I just think that's huge, and I think it's momentous, and they're not all on the same team. Like, you're having competitors, there's rivalry built into this, and I think it's very exciting. Like, it already makes me excited for next year again. I feel like IndyCar is just, they've kind of figured it out. They've kind of been able to take what other racing series haven't been able to do, and they've kind of been able to turn it to their advantage.
And I'm happy that the season's going so well for them. I am sad, and actually we'll get to the 2020 schedule after this point. There was an article, or there have been several articles written in the last few years, people talk about IndyCar trying to come back to relevancy. I would argue they've been back as a relevant entity for a couple of years now, but this year they are definitely back as a relevant motorsport. Now that all the dust is settled from the merger and they've got a way forward, they have their relevance again. Now let's try not to make the same mistakes that cost them that in the first place. So the sport is finally back on its feet, and for open wheel fans in America, you have a lot to look forward to, especially with that higher engine, with the higher horsepower engine coming up here in a couple of years. So let's go ahead and take a way too early look at what the 2020 schedule is going to be. And unfortunately, we are losing Pocono. I would like the Pocono race to be back, but we are gaining Richmond. Richmond is coming back. Unfortunately, that's going to be on the same weekend as I possibly will be in Pocono for the NASCAR race, ironically. So there's a good chance I will not be able to get to see that race live, unfortunately. Of course, we will start the season in St. Petersburg, which has pretty much become the traditional home of the NTT IndyCar series as far as the start now. That track is ingrained into the IndyCar lore at this point with the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Then they'll go to Barber, then to Long Beach. Circuit of Americas will be the last race before the month of May. We will have 5 road courses before these drivers see an oval. And the first oval is the 104th running of the Indianapolis 500. So you don't really get a warm-up to the ovals. Your first one, it just happens to be, the hallowed ground of the sport.
Jumping right in, both feet.
Mm-hmm. Although, and I don't know how you feel like this, Caitlin, I really think they need an oval race before you start the month of May. At least one, I'd say two, just to get these drivers acclimated to ovals before you stick them on a racetrack that we already know, even with 2019 safety innovations, it's still dangerous.
Yeah, I think it's the one thing about their scheduling that has always kind of thrown me off is that they're doing it this way, because I feel like they should at least have one warm up just to kind of, almost like shake the dust off a little bit more.
Yes.
Because obviously just turning left is a lot different than turning left and right on a road course. And yes, there's a lot of build up for the month of May, but maybe even one race on an oval elsewhere before the 500 would protect a little bit more. I mean, just look at how many wrecks we have during the month of May on that track during practices, and I just feel like maybe we would be able to protect a few more cars and drivers from those kind of things if they kind of had a remembrance of, this is how this method goes, because it's so much on muscle memory, but you're not having anything to shake off those cobwebs beforehand.
Mm-hmm. Here's what my one idea for this would be, since we're in the month of May. IRP is right down the street, or O'Reilly Motorsports Park is right down the street.
But it's so small, though. Do you think that they would actually be able to be successful on that track?
I mean, they're going to Richmond.
So, but I think I kind of feel like Richmond's a touch more conducive, though, because of the banking.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more.
I mean, it'd be a thought. They need an oval before Indy.
They could swing up to Michigan real quick.
I would
Smile
be okay
sweetly.
I'd be okay with that, but what's the temperature going to be around that time?
In May? The same thing it's going to be in Indianapolis.
In May. I'm thinking if it wasn't in May. But yeah, in May, I could see it, but that might conflict with when is the NASCAR race in 2020 in May for Michigan? I think
not until June.
In May. Oh, so they're back to
aren't they?
That's gonna suck. I mean, they could swing it.
It's just an idea, and it's close enough by. It's not like it'd be like a crossover in California or something.
Right. I mean, so you can just hop over, or hop over to Michigan, come over, do the road course
Chicagoland's
race
right there too.
Yeah. And I mean, they could, or if they don't want to do all that jumping, they could put Long Beach and Austin a week apart. Just have 3 straight races: Long Beach, Circuit of the Americas, Michigan / Chicagoland / whatever, and then do the road course. I just think they need some sort of running on an intermediate or some size oval before they go to the big track, just to get these guys acclimated to the ovals. That's just my thought on it.
Yeah, I'd be here for that. That's for sure.
So before we go, let us go ahead and take a look at the final standings of the 2019 NTT IndyCar Series, or the NTT Data IndyCar Series for 2019. Joseph Newgarden is your champion with 641 points. Simon Pagenaud finishes second with 616. Alexander Rossi is third with 608. Excuse me. Scott Nixon is looking for his sixth title. Unfortunately, he only get fourth this season with 578 points. Will Power had a bounce back here, finishing fifth with 550. And Felix Rosenquist, your highest finishing rookie, he is your rookie of the year with 425 points in a sixth place. Points finish: Colton Hurd is seventh with 420. Ryan Hunter-Reay has a top 10 points finish, also with 420, so he finishes tied for seventh. And ninth would be Takuma Sato with 415. He had 2 wins on the season. Graham Rahal was 10th with 389, Sebastian Bourdais 387, and James Hinch, of a quiet year out of him, finishes 12th with 370 points. Those are your top 12. Out of everyone this season, there were 36 finishers this year, and some notables. Santino Ferrucci was 13th. Tony Kanaan for AJ Foyt Enterprises finished 15th on the season. Marco Andretti. What can you really say about Marco at this point that has already been said? He finishes 16th. Marcus Ericsson, who had to run over to Belgium at one point in the season, finishes 17th. Matthias Leist, 19th. Ed Carpenter, who really, he just runs the ovals, finished 23rd. Connor Daly, still looking for that to get back to a full-time ride, finished 24th this season. And as I said earlier, 36 drivers took part in at least, or attempted to take part in at least one race this season. So we will take a break. We will come back, and we're going to talk Richmond. I was there, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr., well, may have cost himself a job. We'll talk about that on the other side of this break here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey USRN fans, do you have a product or company you're trying to promote? Look no further. USRN is teaming up with small local businesses trying to establish themselves via online promotion. Let us know if you're interested. Email us at usrnradio@gmail.com to learn more.
What up, all you boxing fans? This is Vince Wright, the sports governor, and me and Gilbert Batista are the host of Ringside on IE Sports Radio. Make sure you keep it tuned to IE Sports Radio, Spreaker.com for the latest edition of Ringside. All the boxing news you need right here. Keep it tuned, Spreaker.com, IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, IE Sports Radio proudly brings to you its intergender tag team champions of the world. Yes, I am Martin Sandoval. My co-host is Felicia, and we are the hosts of The Gorilla Position, live Saturday mornings, 8 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. We bring to you all the latest in news and rumors and opinions and perspectives on the world of professional wrestling. We bring you guys the latest in WWE, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and including independent wrestling such as Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and here VIP Wrestling live from Texas. Yes, it is the Gorilla Position with myself, Martin Sandoval, and my co-host Felicia, live on Spreaker.com and on iTunes.
Well, we are back with a show where you don't have to worry about the co-hosts shooting themselves in the foot. That'd be the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. A little bit of context to that. We were talking about the latest chapter of the old Antonio Brown saga that is playing out on Twitter because someone has not disconnected his phone yet.
I'm starting to think he doesn't have a public relations person.
No way.
Because I'm pretty sure at this point they would be breaking his phone.
If I was a PR person, any electronic device he has that could connect to Twitter would be broken in half in a pile. Because stop tweeting. Just stop it. You're not making the situation better. But it's ironic we're talking about reputations, because as we're starting the NASCAR portion, we're going to talk about Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who ended up turning the leader of the race at Richmond Raceway on Saturday night, a race I was in attendance for. Just after pit stops, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. on new tires, trying to unlap himself from Martin Truex Jr., who obviously was on old tires, but leading the race. Ends up, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. tries to go low on the 19, ends up losing the nose, pushes into the 17s, coming off into the 19, coming off turn 4. Martin Truex Jr. spins around, thankfully does not hit anyone, ends up coming back to win the race. No harm, no foul, right? Well, wrong. We found out this week Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s services are no longer required at the Roush Fenway Racing team at the end of this season. He has been booted. Chris Buescher has been promoted. We'll get to the Buescher situation later, but we'll start with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Caitlin, this has been building the past 2 or 3 years, or Ricky has been known more for taking people off the track than winning races. And
Can I just say that's a funny thing that you said, taking people off the track, since he was dating Danica?
It seemed like that was a lasting reputation of that relationship, where he just started driving into people. And now it has finally cost him his job, unfortunately, whether you view it that way or not. Roush Fenway Racing got tired of the lack of performance, and he's done.
Yeah, I mean, as a Truex fan, I kind of feel like karma's a bitch, so haha on you, Stenhouse. But, I mean, let's be honest, I feel like he ran out of talent a long damn time ago. He's kind of like the dude version of a Natalie Decker.
That might be an No, it's not. Never mind. Ricky has been in the series full-time since 2013. Has 2 wins, 15 top 5s, 33 top 10s, and 2 poles in 7 years. He has a best points finish of 13th in 2017. From a guy with so much hype, and those stats are from Racing Reference, by the way, with a guy that came in with so much hype after winning 2 straight Xfinity Series titles. There's no other word to use for him other than he was a bust. He just did not pan out to what his stats in Xfinity kind of led off to show what he should have been. Let's be honest.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know. I really just can't feel bad for him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, well, that's it.
I don't really feel bad for him either. It's just, you could see this coming. I'm kind of surprised why him destroying half the field at Daytona a couple of years ago wasn't the end of it.
Because
And
he had some weight still, apparently.
I mean, that weight was in wrecked race cars. I mean, half the field wanted to jack him up after the end of that race. Like,
yeah.
they were not happy with him. Ricky earned a bad reputation, and it ended up costing him his job. And we had talked about on here for several years, angrily, some episodes, because he demolished most of the field. But I mean, he never really, and part of it was Roush Fenway was not that competitive. But he never had a year with double-digit top 10s or double-digit top 5s. You know, the only time he got wins were 2 in 2017 in both plate races. And he only led 56 laps in the years where he actually got wins. And the sad part is, he finished worst in points, 18th in 2018, in the year where he led more laps, 133 to 56, than the year he actually won races. How do you pull that off, Ricky? Teach me your ways. Or maybe not, because I would like to keep my car in one piece. The bottom line is, Ricky's going to have to go looking for a ride, and it's probably going to be down at the back end of the grid, unfortunately. That brings us to the Buescher side of this equation. And, Caitlin, have you ever heard of this situation before where a driver, at least in NASCAR, where a driver starts in with a team in the Cup Series, goes to another, but has a retainer clause in his contract where his first team can call him back at any time, and then they exercise that option?
No, that's a new one to me.
Okay, just being sure, because it was a new one to a lot of people. That's how Buescher got the call up back to the team that really developed him, which is Roush Fenway Racing. And now we have this weird situation where JTG Daugherty did not think they'd be looking for a driver. They were telling their sponsors, according to Adam Stern, that they were going to stay in pack on their driver lineup. They were happy with Ryan Preece and Chris Buescher as their driver lineup. Unfortunately, now they have to go look for another driver. There's two good ones out there in the truck series, Brett Moffitt and Ross Chastain. The former, who has been tearing up the truck series ever since he picked up the points full time, has a chance to win a truck championship. Chastain, Caitlin, should probably get that call to move to the 37 next year.
Yeah. I feel like the whole situation is just weird. Like, I feel like every year things just make me scratch my head more with this entire series. You know what I mean?
Well, every year we think that there's not... Well, last couple of years we thought there was going to be a lot of movement. This was the one year where we thought there wasn't going to be a lot of driver transfers other than really what happens at the one with Kurt Busch as he stare does he go. You know, apparently Kurt Busch went over to Le Mans, had a conversation with Ganassi while they were over there. We don't really know what's come of that. We also didn't know what was going to happen with Clint Boyer because his contract is over at the end of this season. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? Is that going to be the end of Clint Boyer's career? Does Ross Chastain get that right? Those are the two big questions. The 95 was pretty much spoken for. That was going to end up being the ride that Christopher Bell goes into. But now, Paul Menard retires out of nowhere. Matt DiBenedetto is going to get the Wood Brothers car. Chris Buescher out of nowhere is into the 17. The 37, which is a decent middle-of-the-pack car. And if you're a driver trying to make a name for yourself, you'd want to jump into that car, try and get some top 10s. All of a sudden, that ride has come open, and now we've got some juice in this driver market all of a sudden, Caitlin. It's kind of cool.
I feel like I'm trying not to, count any eggs before they're hatched.
Mm-hmm.
Just because some things hadn't settled yet. But there's potential for things to have a pretty good shakeup, which I'm certainly interested in.
Oh, and like I said,
but I just feel like I don't know, it's been a while since things were like good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And speaking of the race itself, it wasn't bad. I was, however, surprised that we had the teams, taking it easy. Or not with the teams, the back marker traffic wasn't as a hindrance as it was at Las Vegas, as we talked about it when we came in the show after that. The Las Vegas traffic was ridiculous.
Yeah. And like I was talking to you off air, I truly believe with the lap traffic, I just kind of get a feeling that maybe they laid into them a little bit during the drivers' meeting.
I got the feeling that they may have been told off a little bit because the traffic was a bit more amenable for the leaders than it may have been at Las Vegas, which caused serious some serious log jams. But Martin Truex Jr. ends up picking up the win after leading 109 of the 400 laps on Saturday night. Kyle Busch finished second. Denny Hamlin finished third. Originally, Eric Jones was fourth, but we will get to that. Brad Keselowski's now fourth. Caitlin from the Where Did He Come From file, Ryan Newman. Ryan Newman finishes fifth. Where did that come from?
I mean, that is kind of Rocket Man.
That is kind of what he does now. When that car is good, you won't hear anything from him, and then you're in like the last 15 laps, and you're looking at the leaderboard, and like, wait, what is Ryan Newman doing up here? That's what I did on Saturday, where I'm watching the race. They're lining up for the final restart. I'm like, why is Ryan Newman in the top 5? Like, he can still pull off those sneaky good performances when he isn't, clogging up the back half of the field, There actually still is a little bit more talent in there.
Well, maybe. Or maybe he just got lucky and had a good run.
Well, we'll find out at the Roval this week, although the Roval is going to be bound for controversy. Kyle Larson, Kevin Harvick, Clint Boyer, Daniel Suarez, and Jimmy Johnson, who had a good run, ends up rounding out the top 10. Eric Jones did finish fourth. Originally gave Joe Gibbs Racing the first 1, 2, 3, 4 finish the first 1, 2, 3, 4 finish in NASCAR since Roush Fenway Racing did it in 2005 at Michigan, and it would have been the first for JGR in its history. But during the post-race teardown, they found that the rear steer was not in compliance. Eric Jones was disqualified. Caitlin, he is now 45 points out. His championship run is effectively over unless he can win on Sunday, and he becomes the dubious honor in Cup. He is the first driver to be disqualified since they started taking positions away for failures in inspection.
Yeah, I don't know, Darryl.
I mean, eventually it was going to happen, but we didn't know that it was going to be with... I thought it was going to be someone getting the win taken away, but instead it was Eric Jones getting fourth taken, and he had the engine failures in Vegas. He ran for fourth. No, he ran fourth today, or on Saturday at Richmond, so it looked like he was going to be able to bounce back and make the second round. Now, he's got no chance of making the final round at this point, or the second round at this point.
I'm not really surprised by it, though. I mean, I just don't feel like he's at that level, that solidly competitive level yet to truly be competing to be a champion. Mm-hmm. Personally, I mean, I know that there's going to be fans who are like, oh, how do you say that? And that's not really fair, or whatever. But I mean, I feel like in all truth, though, it's not, I don't know. I don't feel like he's at that caliber yet. I don't think that he has what it takes to compete with people like Truex and Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. I just don't think he's there yet.
Yep. Well, he did get re-signed with JGR, so he will have a chance to go for it again next season, but effectively his championship run appears to be over, and you just got to wonder about that team. Why would you pick now to roll that dice? Because now you've cost yourself a chance at a title. This is something you try to get away with during the regular season, not now when you know they're going to be tearing down these playoff cars because of everything that's at stake here.
I mean, but is it just maybe bad timing? I mean, maybe you feel like you're on the upswing, but really you're not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a stumble can happen at any time, so I almost wonder if that's more of the scenario than anything.
Yeah.
You think you're trying to improve something, but really it's not, but then you're trying to, like, you know, grasp on your feet and kind of get it all situated, but you're still, you know what I mean, like humdumming around trying to figure it out.
By the way, it is unfortunate for that team. I thought Eric Jones would at least get to the final 12, but it looks like that is not going to happen. On the other side, well, actually, let's go through the points. I'll tell you one driver that I am surprised about. As the points sit right now, after race number 2 of the first round of the playoffs, Martin Truex Jr. has pretty much locked himself into the next round with his 2 victories. Kevin Harvick is second, 69 points above the cut line. Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, and Joey Logano will join him in the drivers that are pretty much locked into round 2. Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson are 7th and 8th. They are 37 and 25 points up. They are locked in as long as they don't have any major dramas at the Roval. And then Ryan Newman, was not expecting this guy to get out of the first round. He is solidly in at this point into round 2 at 14 points to the good. However, one mistake at the Roval could change this for him. Ryan Blaney, Eric Almirola, and William Byron are 3 drivers that need to get a move on this coming Sunday, because they could very well, one bad day, they are out of the playoffs for 2019. Alex Bowman 2 back, Clint Boyer 4 back, Kurt Busch 14 back. They still have everything to play for. Eric Jones, got to win or you're out at this point. But Caitlin, we are going to the Roval, as we saw last year. Anything can happen, and you're actually going to the Roval this weekend, so.
I am, and I'll have pit passes, so that's kind of exciting.
So,
but also, this is me giving the Roval a chance to win me over. Maybe I will like it more in person than I did on TV last year, because I still currently passionately hate it in a glorious fashion. Mm-hmm. But maybe me going there will change my mind.
It's going to be a warm weekend for you guys. It's going to be 94 degrees on race day.
I'm pissed. Yeah. You have no idea. Like, so mad at this weather. Like, words can't express how angry I am.
Yeah, the bad part about it is going to be 94 degrees and 50% humidity.
Woo.
That's not.
And I'm pretty sure I'll be wearing my Vikings jersey to the race, though, because we play the Bears that afternoon, and I am currently planning on watching the Roval race while also watching the Vikings play the Bears on my phone via NFL Sunday Ticket. So It should be an interesting combination. So and then I'll just have to, like, fist fight everybody, because they're going to be like, why are you wearing a Vikings jersey? And I'm going to be like, bring it. And I'll just have these hands on everybody, and you might be able to see me on the news. Girl in Vikings jersey gets in fight with entire section of crowd at NASCAR race. News at 11.
Caitlin, please don't get arrested.
I'll do my best. Can I call you if I need bail money?
Sure. Not much I can do about that from Maryland, but sure, we'll see how that goes. This is probably a good time as any to say that we will not be on air next weekend between Caitlin and Lita being out of town. Michael's got a more random schedule, and of course my master's program being, well, a master's program. We're going to take a breather here, and we will be back the next Thursday, so that will be Thursday, October 10th. We will be back here on the Extra Mile. But before we go, we only have 2 races to pick this week, so we can go ahead and pick them at the end of each segment. Caitlin, who you got for the Roval?
So it's funny. I've been thinking about this one because if you've ever listened to this show, you know that I'm a Martin Truex Jr. fan, which means I tend to not pick him because I don't want to jinx him. And if we recall last year at the Roval, he should have won that race, and then people had to be pieces of shit and ruin it.
Someone's still mad at Jimmy Johnson.
Just a little bit. Oh, look, there's karma again. Guess who didn't get into the championship round this year? So, that being said, I was like, okay, who else would I be okay with winning while I was there? Like, who would I be excited for? And the answer is absolutely no one. So, I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to pick Truex for the win at the Roval. Maybe me being there will counteract me picking him.
Well,
because he's won at every other road course that they've run on, including the one in Mexico back in the Busch Series days. So it only makes sense that he would get a W at the Roval too.
Well, sorry, Truex fans, because I'm also picking.
Damn it, Darryl!
Truex to win on
there
Sunday.
There he goes. He's on a rack and lap one now.
I mean, he's got the... I'm just saying he's got the momentum, and he should have won there last year. So I was going to pick him to get revenge. But sorry, Martin, for whatever trouble comes your way. So
dun, dun, dun.
We're going to take a quick break. No hot laps this weekend. We're going to come back and wrap up with Formula One and a interesting strategy play by old Ferrari. We'll talk about that inside this break here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with lists of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your boy Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world, sports themselves, and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for The Defining Moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
Two Wheels Wednesday is the place to come for all your motorcycle sports news every Wednesday on IE Sports Radio with myself, Matt White. All the latest news, rumours, race reviews and previews from World and British Superbikes and the big one, MotoGP. Two Wheels Wednesday, every Wednesday on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sport.
From the home plate to the nets, the end zone to the finish line, here nothing is off limits and no sport is safe. Not what it seems, with your host Caitlin Seam, bringing you sports like you've never heard before. Catch me Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on IE Sports Radio. The only question is, are you ready?
Well, this is weird. We now live in a world where Ferrari doesn't suck anymore. I do not know how to process this, but we will try to do that on this final segment of the Extra Mile here on iSports Radio, your repeat for all that is sports. And Ferrari took home its third straight victory. Yes, let me say that one more time. Ferrari has strung 3 races together. Caitlin, it's a regular Christmas miracle, except we're still in September.
I'm just rather annoyed it couldn't have been Leclerc.
I think everyone is, including Leclerc. If you didn't see the race, when it came down to pit stops, Ferrari decided to undercut with Sebastian Vettel. Officially, they were not expecting Vettel to leapfrog Leclerc. Someone forgot to tell Sebastian Vettel this because he ends up, leapfrogging Leclerc and ends up taking the win, which Leclerc was not happy about that at all as he let loose on the radio with several tirades, as I would be too if I just, been treated like the second driver after I won 2 straight races. So Caitlin, I kind of feel for the man.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm still annoyed that I couldn't pick the winner.
I'm so annoyed that I picked the champion and still didn't get the points in nearest the win for IndyCar, but that's just kind of how it worked out. But
true.
Yeah, it is. I just don't know how they ended up doing this. It almost feels intentional at this point that they're costing Leclerc these victories. I mean, what else does he have to do to prove he's the number 1 driver of this team?
Win the championship, I guess.
Well, that's not going to happen this year because even with the win, Lewis Hamilton still has a race and a half victory. But this was a race where Mercedes we haven't seen them this off in a while. They finished a distant 4th and 5th. Max Verstappen actually split them from the red Ferrari cars. He ended up finishing 3rd, the lone Red Bull Racing Honda in the top 3. But it was just wild, Caitlin, to see the race and see that Mercedes didn't really have a fight in it, and some old tendencies to try and over-strategize kind of bit them in the butt as they went for the overcut with Lewis Hamilton, but they left him out too long, and he ended up losing a couple of positions after that, ended up coming out behind Max Verstappen on a racetrack that has been remarkably hard to pass on.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of funny that he didn't even get a podium.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, too, that I honestly feel like Leclerc and Verstappen are truly contenders for the future champions of this league for when Lewis either retires or slips up.
Yeah.
That'll just got a little thing.
Yeah, there'll definitely be two drivers we'll be watching next season to see if they can challenge. But for this season, it is pretty much wrapped up. They are heading to Russia this week, though, which for Mercedes, that has been dominated by the Silver Arrows. But Singapore has been kind to Ferrari in the last few years. Although Ferrari didn't have
kind
much,
again.
Yeah. Although Ferrari didn't have much to show for it the last couple of years, finally they do, where they pick up the victory. And they end up taking a 1-2, and they'll be going for their first stretch of 4 wins in a row in quite some time. Coming up this weekend, actually, at the Russian Grand Prix. Before we do that, we're going to go through the driver standings quickly. Lewis Hamilton continues to lead, 296 to 231 over teammate Valtteri Bottas. Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel round out the top 5. And in the team/constructor standings, Mercedes just hand them the trophy. That one's over. 527 to 394. Red Bull 289, and McLaren and Renault round out the top 5 there. Caitlin, we're going to Mother Russia. Who you got this weekend?
So it's been 4 races going into this one that Lewis Hamilton has not won a race.
No.
And I feel like it's going to end this weekend in Russia. Because he has to be throwing a fit beyond all fits. That he didn't even podium this past weekend. And he hasn't podiumed last weekend. And then you had to go back one more time for his win. I feel like we got to see that W under the belt again. I think that he's going to be a little serious going into this one. So I'm going to pick Lewis Hamilton for the W.
Well, we really don't have a choice here on this one, but I am also going to go Lewis Hamilton because I picked Verstappen, last year.
Truth. It's
So,
just, I feel like the only one that makes sense, though. He hasn't won 3 races in a row. He has not won.
Yeah.
Like, I have a feeling he is literally screaming right now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only one answer to that, and that's a win.
Yep. So, Lewis will either win or end up not pointing at this point with how our picking has gone over the past few years. But we will see how that wraps up this Sunday. As always, you can see that race on ESPN2 here in the United States. The race will start at 7:10 in the morning, so that it's a bit earlier for that one. But we're going to go ahead and wave the checkered flag for this episode of the Extra Mile. Lita, get well soon. Michael, we hope to see you again on here soon. I know Lita has been, she had just gotten out of the hospital last week, so dealing with some medical situations this week. So we hope to have her back in 2 weeks. Remember, we will be off next week. We will be back on October the 12th. Or no, October the 10th, October the 10th, 2019. So, before we go, remember, check out Caitlin's show at 5 o'clock, Not What It Seems, right here on Spreaker.com/IESportsRadio. Check out Lita's writings at gpgirl.com. Check out mine at wbgrnetwork.com. Remember to also check out the IE Sports Radio website and our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And remember, if you've missed any episode of any IE Sports Radio show, you can find it on the Spreaker Show Reel, Stitchers, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube, and other places where podcasts can be heard. And of course, you can check us out, or you can communicate with us on Twitter. I'm at DKJunior12, Caitlin's at Caitlin Seam, Lolita's at Lolita Camello, and Michael is at StargazerFX. So, that will do it for this episode of The Extra Mile. For Caitlin Seam, I'm Darryl Kinsey Jr. This has been The Extra Mile, and we will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.